Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Women Rising. I'm Judith Zanes, your host today, and today I have with me Louise Bretz. Welcome to the show, Louise.
Thank you, JJ. It's great to be here.
I can't wait to learn more about you and your business journey. I know what you do, but I want to kind of go backwards a little bit. So first, let's start with how long have you been a member of VCBW?
I've been a member of VCBW maybe over a year, but I'm not sure exactly, year and a half maybe.
Yeah, we probably came in around the same time,
I think we
because
did. Yeah, I think we did.
yeah, and I know that you've presented at the Ojai chapter, and I got to see your presentation then, so that was great. So let's start with your story. Like, how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that goes kind of way back before this business. I One of my big hobbies is West Coast swing dancing. And back in the 90s, I was hot and heavy into that. And the dancer I was taking from here in Ventura decided to move along and quit teaching here. So he called me up one day and said, "How would you like to take over the class?" So after a big gulp and talking to some other people, I decided to do that. So for years, ever since then, now over 30 years, I've been teaching West Coast Swing in the community, and that was sort of my introduction to running my own thing. It's always been part-time. I take it back. It has not always been part-time. Uh, Long about 2005, I had what um, has been called an entrepreneurial fit and opened a dance studio. That brought me into a whole nother realm of business compared to what I was doing. I kind of can't remember what I didn't know when I started that. I learned so much running that business. Um, we had that business for about 8 years before we decided to close. But my current financial coaching came out of kind of grew out of that. It grew out of a few different things that happened along the way. I had twins. I quit my day job. My husband retired. That brought all of our income down, and we didn't do anything about it to adjust. We didn't think about it. We just thought we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And that was before we opened the dance studio. Then we opened the dance studio, and I'm not going to say we mismanaged it, but I would definitely do some things differently now, especially with regards to my personal finances and my work finances. Eventually, when we did decide to close, it was a combination of financial and also some personal things. My kids were getting older. It was very obvious that I wasn't at home, um, and that was an issue. But I digress from how I became the financial coach. We found ourselves in a lot of debt, $40,000 worth of credit card debt, which is the equivalent of 60,000 now, and going into debt at a rate of $1,000 a month. Saw really no way out. And they offered a Dave Ramsey financial peace class at our church. And so we went to that, and we took it to heart. We did everything, and we managed to dig ourselves out of debt, and it helped, I mean, all aspects of our life. It improved our marriage because we learned to talk to each other about it. And I decided I wanted to spread some of that goodness and what I got out of it to other people. So at first, we offered a few classes at our church. We did Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace at our church a few times. And then I decided, I think I saw something online, something called a financial coach, and oh, people do that. Like, and I thought, well, I want to do that. I want to work with people individually because people would take a class and then they were gone. Didn't know if it stuck. I understand, it doesn't stick for a lot of people. And so I just hung out a shingle and started started doing it.
And how long ago was that?
That was about 4 years ago.
I don't know if you know I am a salsa dancer, but I've
No,
been
I did
salsa.
not know that. One, two, three, five, six, seven.
Or two, three, four, five, or
Yep, you
six,
could
seven,
do that.
eight.
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you can dance on too. Yeah, I
Yep.
actually have taught salsa classes as well. I dated a salsa instructor many years ago, and it was like a family business. And I ended up becoming one of the instructors, and I started teaching private lessons. And sometimes I teach it when I go to resorts now. And I'm always, yeah, no, and I, my ex-boyfriend who in college, he didn't dance at all. And then after we broke up, he got into swing dancing, and he did learn salsa also. So we
Uh-huh.
kind of saw each other again. And at his wedding in Costa Rica, there were two halves of like there was half salsa dancers and half swing dancers. So it was really kind of a fun wedding to be. I was there by myself, so it was a fun wedding to go to. But yeah, no, I have the dance background. I have a dance background since I was 3, but
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't ever taught dance until we got to salsa because it was, I was taking classes in college. So like that was never going to be my trajectory. And opening a dance studio wasn't something I ever thought that I would do either. But I kind of like fell into it, kind of like you fell into it. Like someone
Yeah.
said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And then you're like, "Hey, I'm doing it. Let's take it to the next level." So yeah, no, I have a salsa. So I've done some swing, but salsa is definitely my first love. So I understand that as a, falling into it for a passion that you're doing. But moving on to the Dave Ramsey class, so you're in a situation where you're taking this class and your husband is retired and
That's correct.
you close the studio. So were you just managing money coming in from retirement to move forward, or did you do other things to bring in more money to help pay down debt and things?
At first, it was just his retirement. And so as we were working on, Dave Ramsey budgeting, boy, did we get good at budgeting. We really got good at tying that down. In fact, one of our traditions was that my husband takes me out for a fancy dinner on our anniversary. That's just what we do. He surprises me where we're going to go. And at that time, he took me to a gourmet hot dog stand. So, so that's kind of the situation we were in. But I did actually, at one point, I decided to take on work. I got trained at Liberty Tax. If you're familiar with Liberty Tax, it's kind of like H&R Block. Um, and became a tax preparer to bring in some extra money. And then I went back to the community college system and I got a job at Ventura College teaching math, which I did for years, and then eventually at Santa Barbara City College teaching physics. So that's been really my primary income for um, years, in addition to my husband's pension.
Are you still teaching at Santa Barbara City College?
I just retired from there last semester. So December was my last paper to grade,
All
and
right.
on to a new chapter. So I'm really trying to spend more time on my financial coaching now. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to do that.
So let's talk about the lessons learned through just having your financial coaching business. I know that you've learned the lessons from Dave Ramsey and the lessons you learned from, because just like you had your dance studio, I had a personal training company years ago, and I did it because I knew I could handle, I thought, every aspect of the business because I had done it before, because I'd worked in gyms and I really had run I was like the assistant manager that was under the payroll. Like nobody was paying me to do all the work, but I was kind of doing all of the work. And then I worked for another company that did personal training, like the company that I ended up starting in California, but it was back in New York City. And so I saw how she ran it, and I was like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. Like I'm a better trainer than she is, and she's not necessarily her zone of genius is not in business; it's just in customer service. So I could learn the customer service piece, which I was kind of good at. So I put this all together, and the one area that I was not good at, spreadsheets and budgeting. But not even budgeting. It's looking at how many clients, because I had people working for me, how many clients do I need to have in order to pay the bills? Because I can't just take from theirs because I have to pay out on them, right? So that did not go well. But it's okay because I learned my lessons there and got a bookkeeper. So from now on, I've had a bookkeeper, it's the best money that I spend because it's not my zone of genius to sit down and do QuickBooks or any kind of spreadsheets ever. I shouldn't be doing them because that's not my zone of genius. I even hired a friend of mine who has a company, like a bookkeeping company, to teach me. And like, it's like trying to learn something you're not built to do, hire out. just have someone else who's good at this do this for you. It doesn't mean you don't look at the numbers, it just means you're not the one inputting it or doing all the data collection and things. So for me, I do understand that, you think you start a business because you're really good at a lot of the things that a business needs, and then you quickly find out the things that you're not that good at that can ruin a business, and then you either learn how to do those things or you get help. So in this 4 years that you've been doing the financial coaching, what are some of the lessons that you've learned here that you did not anticipate or that were different in from the other things that you were doing?
That's really interesting. So many of my lessons that I feel like I've learned really came from back when I was running the dance studio. One thing I know I'm not good at, that I struggle with, is marketing. And I can spit back at you all what to do, how to do it, what's, niche down. I've learned it all. But the execution is something that I know I'm not good at, and that I struggle with and struggle with. Uh, hmm. It feels dreary and like a burden. It doesn't feel like the fun part. So I know that I struggle with that. One of the things that I've come into with this business is in when I ran the dance studio, a lot of times I spent a lot of money on things. And I have to say that has left, um, uh, I don't know, it's made me cautious, which it's sort of funny because when I deal with my own clients, right, and I can see these patterns to push through, and it has made me cautious about spending a lot of money because I would spend money that salespeople for whatever they were selling would be, well, this, don't think of it as an expense, think of it as an investment in your company, which is very true. I mean, like you say, you hire a bookkeeper, right? I hired a lot of different people. And some of that investment will come back, but sometimes often it didn't. So I tend to be a little bit uh, uh, gun shy with that. I don't know that I guess I'm actually learning that about myself doing this, that I'm feeling gun shy about spending that money this time around for the marketing help, for example, that I could use. When I had my dance studio, I also, like wore all the hats. I did hire out some stuff. The best thing I ever did was hire a receptionist to work the front desk. Um, I had a bookkeeper for a while and eventually took that back. But I think that's the biggest thing, is more something I've learned about myself, about that being gun shy and having to get out there. The other thing about this business is that the topic is so different than learning to dance. People are hesitant and embarrassed to learn to dance, but they're even more hesitant and embarrassed to talk about their money and self-identify that that's something that they'd like to get help with. And I'm still working through that, trying to figure out how to uh, reach my potential clients.
Yeah, it's always like the market, like these two things go together because it's the conversation of how can you help people that have a need and that also want help and that want a specific kind of help, or what's the language you can use. Like, yeah, the niching becomes how you bring people in. For a while, for me with Core Wounds, like I did, and it was probably, I know I'm usually ahead of the game. Like my Mercury's in Aquarius. So like I can see trends that are coming, but not everyone's on that page yet. So like I'm out here talking about something you're going to get to in a couple of years, but not everybody is getting it yet. So I'm like,
Right.
okay. So I went on like all these different podcasts for, now granted, they were small shows, but I was talking, I did get a client that's, did my 9-month program, did a 2-month program, who's in my membership. So financially, it was well worth what I did just with that one client. But I did all of this and I talked about core wounds, and then I didn't feel like it had the traction that it should. So I started to get upset about that and think, well, maybe that wasn't, I mean, it was worth it again because I got a client. It ROI, it paid off a little bit. It definitely paid off. I shouldn't minimize it. But again, looking at how much time and energy I spent versus how many clients that I got or how many listeners I
Right.
got out of it. Well, fast forward now, that was 2 years ago. And now in this group, I've got people who are like yesterday, Sunday, I got an email from somebody who found me on a YouTube with Dr. William Davis and literally reached out and said, I just saw you on YouTube with Dr. Davis and I want to do your program. I don't know what the program is, but I want to do it. And I said, okay. So then on Monday, I said, fill out this application. She filled it out and I said, well, I actually have time today. And she goes, yes, please. we're in the conversation, and she said, I've done everything. She's like, but I've never done what you do. And or I've done parts, but I think that's exactly what's missing. And I said, okay, well, here's some podcasts to listen to. I don't want you to make a big decision. It's an investment. I want you to like think about it. She goes,
Hmm.
no, I'm pretty sure I want to do it. She's, can you just tell me cost? And I don't normally ever share costs. Like I want you to see what's included. And I said, well, why don't you tell me what you think? Because she goes, I already have a number in my head. I said, great. Well, why don't you tell me what it is? And it was actually a little bit more than what I was going to charge her. So I told her what the cost was or the investment. And then I said, well, just listen to the podcast and then get back to me. And within an hour, she's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to sign up. I sent her the invoice. How do I pay? I'm like, okay. That was all in 24 hours because the message landed. It's like I had to remember that, yes, this is what I do. This is my zone of genius. This is what I love. This is my passion. This is what I help people with. And part of marketing is being in the right rooms. And I always get referrals from Dr. Davis because he doesn't handle anything emotional. So it seems like I get a lot of, so it's finding like it's part of the game of marketing
Hmm.
is what can I say, but also what can I say that is with an integrity for me. When I was a personal trainer, I mean, weight loss, weight loss is everywhere. But I was working with a therapist. She was my client, but I would work with her clients and she dealt with food addiction. And so I'd go to Arizona and speak and she'd put people in the room and I put people in the room. And at first, the people were definitely my kinds of people. But then over the years, they changed. And now I have a room full of people who are just people who want to get surgery, take Ozempic or take drugs. They have no interest in lifestyle or looking under the hood. It couldn't be more like 180 degrees from actually what I do. I don't want those kinds of people. Even though I'm talking about something they're interested in, they are not the
Hmm.
right people to receive or to do the work that I want to do. So part of marketing, is not just learning the trip, the tricks and the tips and the tools and the funnels and the blah blah blah. It's also figuring out who you are in the industry, who you want to serve, who you do not want to serve, which you'll only get by doing it. Where is it in integrity for you to say, here's what I want and here's the kind of person and niche, if you will, like niche it to say these are the
Hmm.
people that I want to work with and be okay with that. And sometimes it just takes time. 4 years is not a long time to be out there doing, I mean, it's a good amount of time, but it's a trial and error. It's always a test. I tell everyone, whether it be a podcast or a course, when you're in business, everything you do is a test because it's you don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes you move a little bit in one direction and you get a really great result. You're like, oh, well, that worked really well. Let me continue to follow that path. But you have to test yourself in different areas in order to know and start to get feedback about what works and what doesn't work. Besides the plan, because not every social media site is going to be right for you. Not everyone needs to be doing every single social media site, right? So it just depends on who your clientele is, where they live and then your messaging for sure. So don't worry. And as I continue to make more courses and grow and write this book, like my messaging has to continue to get tweaked on every product, on every course, on everything I do. It's a different message. There is a through line, but I'm hitting different populations. So just to let you know, don't worry, it's not. And even when you figure it out, it's going to change in a year from when you figure it out because people change and your offers are going to change and the way that you work might change a little bit, or you might decide, I really want to work with these kinds of people. I'm tired of working with these. Maybe there's a limit. You have to have X amount of debt or X amount of money to spend, or I don't know, or be this age or live in this demographic or have to go on Zoom, right? Some people only want in person. So all of that will, yeah, you're right on track. I'm sure that we're not entrepreneurs unless we're learning something, right?
Always, definitely. Always learning something. And I do feel at this, for this business, that I am very much still in sort of the baby growth stage. I've been doing this part-time, teaching at Santa Barbara City College. And still teaching, doing my dancing. This is only one of many things that's happening. And so I've really tried to, uh, I don't know if double down is the right word, but since I decided to retire from Santa Barbara City College, and you talk about finding the venues that's right for you, which I still don't know completely, but what has worked for me is like speaking or teaching a workshop. And so I've decided to try to pursue more of those kinds of opportunities for visibility and getting in front of people. Social media is not my forte again. So if I getting in person or on Zoom or on a podcast, so I'm here. Uh, that's an avenue that I've decided to explore, for right now and see how that's going to work for me.
Yeah, know that there's strategy needed. I recently did a podcast. It was for podcasters, so if, that's
Hmm.
why you didn't know about it. I didn't offer it to anybody who didn't have a podcast, but it was called Podcast to Profit, how to like using repurposing of your episodes into courses and books and marketing that lasts. And I just met with a gentleman who's my fiance's client. And he's he's been doing his podcast for a while. He's having a good time. He spends a lot of money doing it, but he's like, I'm not making any money. And I was like, right. And if you're not going to make any
Yeah.
money, you're not going to do it. So it does require a strategy, but most people don't do that. They don't, they start something and they don't actually have a plan to see what works and how it works and how things, within that in that plan work. So the strategy, just like a strategy for finances, is important
Hmm.
for your business to at least test out a theory or go in a direction. The only thing I'll say that I do want to add, and you don't have to take this advice if you don't want it, but
Yeah.
I've worked with other financial planners and people that help people, and they look at ROI a little too quickly. What I mean by that is let's say it's a year-long program and there are some your things that you're doing, or you're doing a 3-month program, and you have to look like beyond what happens in that time frame of here's what I'm going to spend or invest on this to learn this thing. It's like, what's the long, you have to be long-term goal related to be able to, like, with exercise, right? When you start resistance training, nobody builds muscle in the first month or 2 months. I mean, your metabolism is not going to change in the first 2 to 3 months unless you're lifting 3 times a week and you're going to failure. But it takes about 3 months for the body to adapt, right? But so this is something that, just like with investing, right? You're not going to turn around and be a millionaire tomorrow if you only invest $100,000. It's going to have to, you have to wait a little bit in order for it
Right.
to, right, to grow. So it's the same thing with the investments in courses, coaches, businesses, whatever. You have to take a bigger, wider view, a longer term view, and don't be short-sighted. That's what I have found a lot of people do. They get real short-sighted, and if I'm going to invest in this program or this coach or this bit whatever, and if I don't see a turnaround in the next 3 months or the next 6 months, you have to like take a broader step, because everything builds. There's a momentum that gets
Right.
created. And sometimes the thing that the person you meet, or the contact you meet, leads you to a thing, to a thing, to a thing, and that thing is going to be the one that not only doubles or triples your investment, but it didn't come directly from that. It was a result from that. So having a wider perspective is really important for, in my opinion, as a long-term entrepreneur for 25 years, who've literally only worked for myself for 25 years, because it ebbs and it flows, and it changes as you change. So to be patient with, and to say, well, there are multiple things I'm going to get out of this, and it may not be, the investment may not get returned this month, this quarter, this year, but I see how it will when it does. So that would be my only thoughts about that. So for anyone that's listening, because I understand, we especially as a financial person, you're probably telling people to spend money where you can see that it's going to grow, or invest it in a way, right? It's very in the moment right now, but sometimes there's the unforeseen things, the relationships, the connections, the referrals, the affiliations that you have that you can't see yet, but that are coming if you take step A and step B and step C. So,
Hmm.
what positive things, in like, what have you learned that you feel you've successfully done and are proud of your, coming into this business? So we looked at the things that, that you think you need to learn, or the things that this business has shown you is your next level of learning. But what are the things that you've done successfully very well that you feel really proud about?
I'm really proud of the classes I've taught. I've taught couple classes at our church. I've done some speaking at some groups. It's always been very well received. And of course, I've gotten some one-on-one clients from that. I actually have this one lady that I see regularly, and she was in one of my classes, and she was a widow, and her husband had always taken care of all the finances, and he left her in just a fine state. She's an elderly lady, but when she came to my class, she didn't even know how to look at her bank account to see how much was in there. She said she used to go to her financial planner to ask if she could give her grandkids $20 for their birthday. So she really had never handled the money. It was the kind of situation like, she probably handled the household bills, like here's the money for groceries, honey, that kind of thing. And every once in a while I'll see her and she just says, like, your class changed my life. I now know how much money I have. I know what I can do with it. I did some improvements on my house, and where she used to be afraid to give her kids $20. So that's really to me, a great success story. Um, And I don't always hear back from other people to see exactly, where things have led. But it's those kinds of things, like little things that open the doors for her big time in just understanding her money.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's a life changer. You're empowering her to feel in control and then she becomes free to make choices when she didn't probably feel free because she was trapped in the
Yeah,
I have no say over this and I don't know anything about it and no one likes to be in the dark, so you helped her become free. Yeah, that's great.
exactly. That's, I think a lot of times people think of budgeting because I hate, you hate to use the B word. A lot of financial coaches we talk about planning your spending, which is the same thing as budgeting, but I don't know. It has it's a little bit of a trigger word for people, right? And they think it's all about, denying yourself and not getting to do what you want. And like anything else, I'm going to mention dancing again, because from salsa dancing, the discipline gives you freedom then to express yourself for dancing. And for many, it's the same way. The discipline, maybe it hurts for a little while having that hot dog for your anniversary, but then you have this freedom later to make all these choices and to understand what you want to spend your money on, and what is for you a waste. And it's just so freeing. It's so freeing. I just want to like sprinkle it on everybody.
Are you an earth sign by chance?
I don't know what the earth signs are.
What's your birthday?
No, I'm Pisces. That's water,
Oh, so am
right?
I. So am I. Yeah.
So I'm Pisces and I have Aquarius in my Moon, Mars, and Venus. That's all I know
Wow.
about my chart. So I'm a lot of
Okay.
Aquarius.
Okay. There you go. It's all very thinking. So, and
Very
thoughts
thinking. I'm a very
are.
thinking. My degree is in engineering. So
Hmm.
I was always like math, science, engineering person.
So you craved the structure because Pisces
I
and because the air and the water are very airy. So you craved the structure. You wanted the containment. It probably feels safe for you to have the
I love
container.
structure. I love structure. And like even when I go see, I'm going to talk about art for a minute. When I see art, I love the geometric art or something. The things that are like, here's a blotch and here's a square and there's a circle. There's like I can't.
Okay. Well, when I was listening to you about the whole structure and the budget. So I actually I'm a Pisces also, but and budget definitely is not a good word for me. I get it from one aspect, but what it means to me, I have many Sag planets. I'm Sag moon, Sag rising, Sag soul. It means lack of freedom. And so I had taken many courses for a financial planner
Hmm.
teacher over the years since I started my business, and she came up with three budgets. And so I use Chelly's framework of the three budgets. She's got low budget, medium budget, and high budget. And your medium budget is what you're normally used to. Is
Right.
your right,
Hmm.
and then you do the tighten your belt budget, but you start with the high budget because you do like, what do I want to manifest? And I think that also is really inspiring because it gets people really focused on, well, what would I have to make to live this way if I
Hmm.
lived in high budget? But having the option every month to switch back from low budget, high budget to medium budget gives at least a little bit more freedom than one. So I know for me, it was really having the option and also knowing it's temporary because I've had to be living in low budget for a little while. There have been times
Sure.
for sure. And I'll say, even being forced to live in low budget, like the last couple of months, has forced me to see things differently because I don't like to change up and switch platforms and switch. Like if I'm somewhere that's working, I just want to stay there, right? But I've just come up with, I got a new opportunity to move my whole podcast platform and everything to a new place because my guy moved. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to save me so much money. Right? Even though it's a pain in the butt, but he's helping me. Like as of right now, today, like all the shows are moving to a different platform. And I'm so excited, but that's not something I would do by myself because I like familiarity. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I
Hmm.
wouldn't, but unless you're in this time where, okay, well, something's got to give, you really need to look at like, what are these revolving expenses that do you need to have that? And I did for my safety. I felt safe where I was. But now that my guy moved from here to here, I'm like, oh, I'm going with you. And now I'm moving and it's because it's safe, but it's also now going to be really economical and very smart. So, and it's not like I was spending more than the average person was spending. It's a very, but because I'm unwilling to, I don't want to rock the boat. I manage and juggle so many different things. It's like changing banks. What a pain in the ass. Who wants to change banks? I don't, but but if
No, I
you
agree.
like, right? But so, and I have all of those kinds of things where if it works, don't if it's working, don't if it's not broke, don't fix it. So with the budgets, to me, it just gave me that my whole mindset shift is like, oh, I can just be on low budget this month, and then I can go back to medium budget next month, and it doesn't feel so bad, and I don't shame myself, and I don't feel like I'm
Yeah,
identifying with failure. But that's really the root of most people's money things is the shame you feel about whatever's in front of you.
right. And I don't think of, if you think of the budget as a spending plan, I think every month or however often you want to do it, you have complete freedom to make it what you want. And I say complete freedom. Of course, we have whatever incomes, coming into us, but I can decide, any month, do I want to not, subscribe to my subscriptions and instead spend all my money on some dance lessons, or do I want to, forget the dance lessons and go out to dinner, or if I'm having to make those kinds of trade-offs, I get the freedom to make it. And I think that's where people frequently they don't realize it's theirs. Like, and you've got yours, you've got your three different ones that work so well for you, but they're yours, right? You get to make them, you get to use them, you get to live them and adjust them any way you want, But it's good to have the clear vision of what's really there instead of, oh my gosh, what happened this month? My money's gone and I don't know why. That's the thing that's hard to that's very useful for getting over that.
Well, I like your term spending plan. That feels better than budget. Budget feels restrictive. Spending plan is good. I like that term. So why don't we tell people how you work? So if someone's interested in working with you, I know we have moneycoachlouise.com as your website, but like talk about
Correct.
the process of who is this for as of right now. I know everyone needs it, but if you had to pick some keywords for an ideal client, who do you help best? Who do you love working with most? And then how do they get started?
So what I really like working with is people maybe who have money and don't know what's happening to it, or somehow can't feel like they're still not getting ahead. Gosh, how come I seem to have a decent salary. Why can't I save? Why can't I get ahead? And couples also, that this is dear to my heart because of our own situation, um, where maybe some of their issue is that they're not agreeing on what to do, and it's causing some problems, or they don't know how to talk about it, and that makes it more difficult to move forward. Um, a lot of times that means people who are in some kind of, credit card debt or something. I wouldn't say the best client for me is somebody who's really in crisis, like about to get evicted or something like that. That's probably not who I would be good with working with. And then what I do is you can come and get on a free call with me and talk about, what your situation is, see if I'm a good fit, see if we think coaching would work or not work, but, be a good thing to do. And my foundation program is a 3-month coaching program. So you sign up for 3 months and we meet once a week on Zoom for a while. Usually after a while, it segues to once every other week. It kind of depends on the client and where I need to meet them. And then after that, there's options to continue for continued accountability and growth over time, so that hopefully it helps people stick with it.
Okay, great. And can they sign up for that free call on moneycoachlouise.com?
Yes, they can.
Excellent. All right. Anything else you want to add about either your service, your website, your clients, your wisdom? Anything you want to share?
My wisdom. I wish I did, but I don't. I
Okay.
don't have anything else I want to add. I think I said what I want to say.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, so everyone check out the show notes. It's moneycoachlouise.com, or you can also email her, coachlouisebretz@gmail.com. Reach out, let her know you heard the show here. Share the show with someone else who needs it. Maybe they're not part of ECBW or West Coast Women Rising audience. That's totally fine. It doesn't matter. She works with people who don't listen to the show. So go ahead and forward it if it sounds like it's something that they could use. Uh, yeah. And thanks, Louise, for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, JJ. It was a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you.